We're really excited to have the first talk of the day by another dear friend to ChainSafe, the CEO of AIB, Peng Zhong. And he'll be talking about 1 million blockchains. So let me add you to the stage, Peng. And just for all of those watching on YouTube, please, share this as much as you can. We'd love to get as many people to be able to get this content as much as possible. Peng, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you.
Hey, Aiden. Thanks for the introduction. Happy to be here.
Awesome.
My first time using this software.
So I'm going to turn off my camera and mic, and I'll just hop on if you need anything in a bit. Thank you.
Okay. I'll share my screen. Let me know if this is working for you guys. All good? All right, cool. So I'll get started. Thanks, Aiden, for introducing me. And thanks for running this event. I'm looking forward to future CSCONs as well. So today I'll be giving a quick talk about 1 million blockchains. I'm Peng Zhong, CEO at Tendermint. So let's get started. So a little bit about me. I've been passionate about open source for quite some time. In 2012, after Edward Snowden's revelations about NSA spying in the US with the PRISM surveillance program, I built this website called prismbreak.org. Gained quite a bit of traction. It was really popular on Reddit. It's still being linked on the R-Privacy subreddit. And it got roughly about 2 million views over the course of a couple months as people are scrambling to find open source and free alternatives to proprietary software that may or may not be spying on them. I joined Tendermint a few years later as the first employee. And I've always really resonated with Tendermint's mission, to bring decentralized finance and open finance to the world. Because I believe that software is really meant to be open source. And the really cool projects that I've been excited to be a part of are the ones that are open source and that end up being run by different maintainers. For example, Prism Break itself, I no longer even run it, but it's being maintained by a community of people that I've given access to on the repo. And I'm hopeful that crypto will also continue growing in the same way. I have a background in UI design and front-end development. I was a freelance web developer for quite a long time before joining Tendermint. And when I joined Tendermint, I focused primarily on building UI. And clearly back in 2015 and even 16, the core infrastructure was not there yet. But I built the first wallet, which has later become Looney. And I also designed the Cosmos fundraiser app, which allowed people to donate Bitcoin and Ethereum. We raised 17.3 million over the course of half an hour. And that fundraiser has really been what's funded all of Cosmos development up until this point. I was recently appointed CEO this year in May. And my focus for the company and what I think is needed in Cosmos in general is just an improved developer experience. So if you don't know too much about Cosmos, I'll go and do a quick refresher on that. So Cosmos is it's a blockchain development ecosystem. And one of the core tools that I want to focus on in this talk is one called the Cosmos SDK, which you can use to build sovereign blockchains. So why would you want to build sovereign blockchains? First, I'll just put out there that smart contract development is still much easier than launching a brand new chain. So in this talk, I hope to answer why software developers should spend time building a Cosmos blockchain as opposed to just writing a Solidity smart contract, for example. So one of the core concepts of Cosmos is sovereignty, which means that the software that we provide you is entirely free and open source. It's licensed as Apache 2. I'm not here to convince you to buy any tokens at all, because you don't need any tokens to use the Cosmos SDK. by using this software that has no strings attached, you control your own destiny by owning your entire applications platform, right? From the bare metal all the way up to through the entire stack. It's all yours to do whatever you want with. And we're hoping that people can use this to build entirely sovereign communities that govern themselves without outside influence or without relying on infrastructure that has a different set of shareholders than your own. So interoperability is the second key concept of Cosmos. And so while you're able to build your own sovereign chain and govern with your community exactly what happens on it, right? You can also connect your chain and connect your tokens to other chains in the ecosystem with the IBC protocol. And then lastly, I think most importantly for me is Cosmos SDK was always designed to be modular. So you pick and choose whichever modules that you want to use, and only the ones you want to use. You can throw away the rest, keeping your stack as lean and mean as possible. And unlike smart contract development, you can always alter fundamental chain parameters, like block time, staking rewards, number of validators, block sizes, etc. So with all these great benefits, what's going to take Cosmos to 1 million chains? A million's a very ambitious number, right? Billy gave a talk yesterday about how we only have about 60 Cosmos SDK-based mainnets today. So how do we get from 60 to 1 million? 1 million is like roughly one blockchain for every 8,000 people in the world, right? So what makes a blockchain usable for small groups of people like that? What's stopping Cosmos from taking over the world? And I'll go over that real quick. So as a part of Tendermint and as a part of helping to build the first Cosmos-based blockchain, the Cosmos Hub, what we realized is that it's very expensive to build blockchain core infrastructure, to build the blockchain itself, and also to build a community. You really need 3 great teams. You need a blockchain engineering team, you need a design and front-end development team, and you also need a marketing and community team. It's very much more involved in smart contract development, right? Because for smart contracting, you just need someone who knows smart contract language. But in sovereign proof-of-stake blockchains, you also need to convince a community of stakeholders, of validators, right? To get your blockchain going, to make sure it's secure against double spend attacks, etc. And generally, we found that in order to make a very successful, valuable blockchain like the Cosmos Hub, we've needed to put in millions of dollars into these 3 types of teams. And that's really unsustainable. And that's why we're never going to really grow and get to mainstream with the cost of development and maintenance and community building being so high. So how do we cross the chasm to mainstream from these early adopters who have really expended their time and energy, their valuable time and energy on Earth, working with the Cosmos SDK, which still requires so much work to get going. So at Tendermint, we've identified 3 areas that we want to focus on going into next year for the sake of the Cosmos community that we think will help grow the ecosystem and bring about the vision that a lot of us in crypto, most of us in crypto care about, which is to move as much of finance as possible onto blockchain. So the 3 areas that we want to focus on is to make building chains faster, to make validating chains cheaper, and also to make launching chains a lot easier. So how do we do that? First, I want to focus on the problem number 1, which is why building a chain takes so much time. And I'm going to go into it from a perspective of like a mainstream app developer or web developer. So if I wipe my mind clean of everything I've done over the past 5 years, and I see this page, right? It's like a page of terminology that you really need to know before you can participate meaningfully in discussions about proof-of-stake blockchains. And it's a lot to learn, right? Well, I can confidently build a web app without knowing any of this stuff. To build a Cosmos app, which is really just a decentralized web app, you need to do a lot of studying, right? Likely months of studying. And this is what I've learned as I've been hiring people for our team, which is that they need months to get onboarded if they're not coming from a blockchain background already. And that is expensive. Developers are expensive to pay for. So how do we smooth this learning curve, right? So people end up using Cosmos for their weekend projects because clearly, it's not really usable for a weekend project right now. So we've started working on this year already. with a tool called Starport CLI. So this is a developer-friendly layer on top of the Cosmos SDK. We launched it in July. It's gotten a lot of positive feedback. In fact, people have interacted with it over 25,000 times, which I think is incredible. It comes with a bunch of great features for developer productivity, which includes scaffolding the entire blockchain for you, scaffolding a front end, right, a web UI, hot reloading of both backend and front end code. It supports cross-chain token transfers, which was really incredible to see. And it also has easy pathways to bringing on board CosmWasm style, Rust smart contracts, as well as Ethereum Solidity contracts. It's available today on GitHub, V12, and we're working on V13 right now, which will provide better support for IBC. So I've really appreciated using this tool myself, because the Cosmos SDK, like I said before, is not easy to get into, right? You follow the initial tutorials that we had in the day, and it took hours, if not days, to get yourself going with a local testnet. But with Starport CLI, we've reduced that to less than 5 minutes. In fact, we have an online dev environment where you can get a chain launched and going within like 1 minute of loading the web page, which I think is really amazing. So on to the second problem. Validation of proof-of-stake blockchains is still very difficult. Maybe if you're an SRE engineer, or if you're familiar with DevOps, it's not that difficult for you. But for everyone else, for application developers and people who are not familiar with administering a Linux system and using things like like Docker and Kubernetes, it's not easy to spin up a validator, and especially it's not easy to keep it going and maintaining it for future upgrades and such. Beyond the fact that it's not easy, it's really expensive, right? To be a validator, you need to invest in tokens, right? Because every proof-of-stake blockchain cannot launch unless 2/3 of all the tokens that exist are online and staked on validators. Of course, you don't need to buy large percentages of a network, but you need to either get enough tokens to participate, or also to convince people to delegate to you, which is also expensive in terms of marketing. You need to pay upfront for hardware and rental co-location centers. You also need to hire site reliability engineers for your team, which is also very expensive. I don't even want to get into how much it costs in terms of taxes to run a validator. Everything eats away at your margins, and it's pretty cutthroat to become a mainnet validator right now. Which means for developers, I'm coming at it from the angle of developers, it's very hard to get validators to care about your chain. So we're working on something hopefully to release early next year called Starport Cloud. So Starport Cloud is validation as a service. It will provide continuous integration, continuous deployment for blockchain. It'll provide tools for simulating your chain, also for benchmarking it. We hope to have a service integrated with GitHub. So with every single pull request you make to a blockchain, it'll automatically run the blockchain with several nodes across the world, and make sure that nothing is breaking as you're making changes to your chain. We hope to provide multi-node testnets that developers can centrally manage, as well as later on mainnet validation. So like turnkey Sentry node and validator validation for your chain immediately. And it's also integrated with Starport CLI, our earlier tool, so you can do everything from the command line. So you can both develop your chain and launch it to the cloud without ever leaving the CLI. We plan to have an alpha release in Q2. So for developers, for mainstream developers and web developers like myself, who would prefer not to do back-end work, right? To launch several validators, or even to launch a single validator with several sentries across the world, it took hours of work, right? Lots of typing away, and you're not even sure if it's secure or if it's going to work really well. So after Starport Cloud, you should be able to launch a sentry, multiple sentries, and a validator within minutes. So the final problem that I want to touch up on is decentralized launches are really difficult. So I'm going through the experience right now as we upgrade to the next version of the Cosmos Hub. We're working on testnets right now, occlusion from the Cosmos ecosystem, as well as basically most of the mainnet validators are busy working on testing the Stargate upgrade to the Cosmos SDK. And it's been really difficult getting people to synchronize on upgrades. So, decentralized launches are a burden, especially if you want to get tens of people or more than 100 people online at the same time launching a chain. It's always going to be a difficult problem, no matter how we improve it. And this is another barrier to entry for developers, right? Validator teams, reliable validator teams, are small and overworked, right? And they have to pay attention to the release cycle of many different chains. And developers need this validator support to launch valuable chains. It's also very difficult, as we've been learning in Cosmos, to engage validators into testnets because they have such limited time, and because testnets, don't really have economical value for validators at the end of the day. They really just care about mainnets. Finally, decentralized launches are done very imperfectly through a bunch of channels that are not meant for, decentralized validation and launching chains at one set time, right? We're using things like Discord, Telegram, Slack, Twitter, etc. None of them are really meant for decentralized launches, right? So how can we make it easier for developers to connect to validators? This is a third thing that we're working on. We're calling it Starport Network. So Starport Network is a blockchain. It's a two-sided marketplace for developers and validators. It's designed to speed up the process of decentralized chain launches and chain restarts. So what is it, right? For developers, it lets them announce new chains to a community of validators and puts them on a fast track to mainnet launch by being able to offer token incentives to validators. And for validators, it lets them get an overview of all the best upcoming IBC-enabled blockchains and allows them to very quickly, make judgment calls on which chains to validate for. We hope it'll be, a community and a place for validators to connect with chain developers and chain launch coordinators, and a unified UI, right, to make this process of decentralized launches faster and easier. What is the end goal for Starport Network? The end goal for Starport Network might not even require a UI at all, and in fact, it can be entirely API-based, and every single chain developer, right, can set parameters on what they want in terms of validators, and validators can set exactly what they're looking for in terms of chains. And I can imagine a future where chain launches and restarts happen automatically without any human input other than the initial proposal to launch a chain. So this is what we need to get more chains going. And we're working on this internally right now. We're able to start a production blockchain with 4 commands from a validator and 4 commands from a chain coordinator. So the business model for this, of course, it is like a chain, like I mentioned before, and the token will benefit from the upside of launching other chains. And we'll have a testnet in Q1. So I want to share with you Among Us. So this is the most popular game in the world right now. And this is a multiplayer lobby before Among Us starts the game. And so that, like I mentioned before, I come from a UI design background. And this UI actually, or something similar to it, could easily work for a decentralized chain launch, right? You got your parameters in the top left, you got little avatars of validators, jumping around and changing their name and settings in the middle, and you have a giant start button to launch a chain. What prevents decentralized blockchain starts to be as easy as this? That's my question, and that's what we're hoping to solve with Starport Network. So if you're familiar with the Cosmos ecosystem, and I guess any incentivized proof of network system today, testnets to incentivize validator participation, right, are definitely needed to get validators who care about your project to join. And it's not easy to get these started because it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of manual reach out, and work finding validators to participate. And there's a bunch of scheduling issues that make it take time to launch an incentivized testnet. We hope with Starport Network, it should take less than a day for someone to announce an incentivized testnet and launch it, the very next day with a set of validators who are interested in building this chain. So those are the 3 things that we have for the Cosmos community going into 2021. thank you for listening. And also, I want to thank all the core Cosmos developers for building, the infrastructure to a level where we can start thinking about developer experience and making that better for everyone who's joining from now into the future. So as a company, we're focused on building developer tools which lower the barrier to entry to blockchain development, right? And we hope that will get us to 1 million chains. If you're interested in working with us to build these great, DevX tools, we're hiring. You can also reach out to me on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Peng. What an incredible talk. And I know just from, judging at some of the different hack atoms, especially the last one, I've just seen how many developers really got to use Starport and how much it changed what they worked on in such a positive way. So I have seen personally the impact that tool has had for developers, and cannot wait to see how much more impact the rest of the ecosystem of tooling that will come out around it will have as well. So yeah, incredible work, and thank you so much for sharing that with us today. We have a few questions from the crowd. So what is the UX challenge you believe is the biggest barrier for most developers and people in general? So the biggest UI challenge I think right now is still related to Starport CLI and still related to the Cosmos SDK. So I come from JavaScript and front-end development, right? And as many issues as NPM has, I think a tool like the Node Package Manager, right, would be very great to have in the Cosmos ecosystem, right? A centralized place where people can see, really sort of the most popular modules everyone's using for their chain, and for them to use it in their chain with, NPM install or, Cosmos module install. I think that has the potential to bring about the most amount of new developments and ease of use. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait for that day. Next, we got what user experience or developer experience improvement are you most proud of? So I guess Tendermint related, you related, or Cosmos related, however you want to take that question, or all three.
Yeah, so I can only be proud of what we've already built so far, which is Starport CLI. Well, I think for people in the Cosmos ecosystem already, it's not really that useful to them, because they already know how to use the SDK. We think that there's a chance this tool could, 100x the number of developers in the ecosystem. So we're really happy to continue working on this tool and making sure that, it really serves new developers and gives them, the best face of Cosmos that we can.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. For sure. And one of the questions that got a lot of upvotes, people are really interested with what camera or webcam you're using because of the quality being so incredible. So can you share with the crowd what webcam you're using, please? Yeah,
so I don't know how to share it without turning off the camera and showing you, but it's a Sony a7 III. It's actually a mirrorless camera.
Oh, for sure.
And I bought it to travel with, actually, for 2020. But then COVID hit us, and I'm now using it as a webcam.
Amazing. The best webcam out there, for sure.
I strongly recommend, if you have the funding or the money to get a camera for your webcam, but definitely do some research and see which one best suits your purposes. Because, we're all remote. We all have to be remote these days. And, video chat is the only way we can really communicate and connect on a human level.
100%. And I guess just another question I had for you is, with everything going on with Stargate, what do you see as a few of the applications that were always a part of the vision that brought Cosmos forward that are now going to be able to be realized through the introduction of IBC?
Mm-hmm. So I think the project that I'm most excited about, given the activity that we're seeing in Ethereum, is sovereign new chains. that focus on DeFi protocols and, potentially just yield farming as well. Like the Cosmos ecosystem and Cosmos infrastructure is designed to allow for these sort of experiments to happen, off of the main chain. So it lets people who develop these chains, reap most of the upside, and also without, clogging up the transaction throughput or blocks of a chain that's more focused on security or governance, like the Cosmos Hub. So that's what I'm most excited about, DeFi and Cosmos.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We really appreciate that conversation, and hopefully those listening, not just within this platform, but in general, will be able to take advantage of Starport moving forward and really help take their project to the next level. So thanks again for joining us, Peng, and I'm looking forward to catching up soon.
Thank you, Aiden, and thank you to ChainSafe for running this event.
It's our pleasure. Talk to you soon, Peng.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.